Shanti, can you talk to us about liberation and about like simple temporary liberation and finally being liberated?
Yes. Liberation is the word used very loosely. People talk about it but don't know what liberation is about. So think, liberation means freedom. If you are in pain, you get rid of the pain, you are liberated from pain. Okay? You are addicted to any substance, you are free from it, you are liberated. You are in prison, you are out of prison, you are liberated. Okay? So these are all liberation. Liberation means expansion of consciousness and greater freedom. Everyone is looking for liberation. In spiritual sense, a liberation, ultimate sense, is a liberation from suffering. And what is the greatest suffering is birth is suffering, death is suffering, and in between life is suffering. This is according to all the authorities. Being in mother's womb upside down for 9 months is suffering. At the time of death, we have to depart and separate from all the things we are familiar with, go to unknown ground is suffering. And entire life is also suffering, because though we call pleasure, behind pleasure there is suffering. For example, if you want to get pleasure, you need effort. So it takes so much effort to gain pleasure or money or whatever you want. You need that effort. Then it takes effort to sustain it. So effort is called suffering, sustenance is suffering. Then it creates tanha, means desire, that I want to repeat it. That is also suffering. End product, when you are finished, you feel depleted. That is suffering. And it produces sanskaras, so it stays with you and in future you crave. Also the situations change, gunas change. So what you call happiness today, in this situation, same situation won't give you happiness. For example, you enjoy certain food, you are very hungry. But situation when you hear some drastic news, something that disturbs your peace, your liking for that food will go away. It depends upon situation. So birth is suffering, life is suffering, death is suffering, but we don't see suffering as suffering because we see the pleasure, but we don't see the outcome as pain. So we are asleep during pain and aware during the pleasure. So during suffering we are not aware, so we repeat the cycle. So suffering is transmigration, being born again and again. So from spiritual standpoint, liberation is freedom from transmigration, not to be born again. Why we are born again and again? Because we have desires. Whatever desires we have, we try to fulfill them. We fulfill the desires, and desire is the cause of the body, senses. Whatever we have desire, we take that kind of body and we go through the experience. We don't fulfill that desire, we repeat it. We fulfill the desire, increases other desires, we fulfill that. So liberation comes when you become free from all the desires.
Aren't you better off fulfilling your desires so you can...
Right. Fulfilling desire is the problem, because when you fulfill the desire, it's like pouring gasoline on fire.
Right.
So they increase. So there is no end to desires.
Right.
Like I will be happy when I have $1,000. Then when you get 1,000, I will be happy when I have 10,000. You know, just like desires never end. So we have to live with awareness, so we fulfill the desire and realize that any desires will only bring suffering. So when we learn that lesson of going after lifetime, then we meditate and find stillness within and find that I am supreme consciousness. I have no desire, I have no birth, no death. Then we get liberation. But all the previous lives' impressions or sanskaras stored in the mind, unconscious mind, those would propel us to go through. So what we need to do is remove all the previous desires hidden in the mind through meditation or by living with awareness and stop making more desires. Because in life, when we live the life, we produce more desire. So you can remove all the desires in the unconscious mind through deep meditation so that you burn all those sanskaras in the depth of the mind. And we don't produce new sanskaras only by living the life without ego, without being a doer, because we produce sanskaras by saying I am the doer. And strong likes and strong dislikes produces more sanskaras. So really, we have to be only as instrument, serve selflessly, so we don't produce any sanskaras.
But we're the only ones that would know if we're doing it egoless, because on the outside looking in, nobody could.
Right,
nobody
it is
could tell that.
internal feeling, internal
Yeah,
feeling.
it has to be.
So it has to take lifetime after lifetime. And then suppose if somebody reached the last life, that they have fulfilled all the desires, that they don't have more desires, but some residual effect of previous incarnation, they allow their body to go through. That means their body may suffer, they endure it without likes, dislikes, until they finish those desires. Just like a car engine is turned off, car is going downhill, it will keep on rolling because it's previous form. Or a fan is running, turn off the power, still previous momentum. So there are so many spiritual masters who have found enlightenment, but still they suffered in the body because of that previous karma. So they let that manifest. And there are so many great masters who died at very young age because their mission was completed. They did not have any more desires. So they free. For average person, liberation is unthinkable because they want to live and enjoy life. So liberation means you cannot enjoy all the pleasures of the world. So that stage is advanced stage when you can think about liberation. But for understanding purpose, liberation means greater expansion. Because whatever you can experience with five senses is very limited pleasure. If somebody takes drugs and feels high, feels greater freedom beyond the boundaries of the body and limitation, so mind expands, consciousness expands. So liberation is full expansion, that you are universal. So you are seeing with all the eyes and ears of the world. That means we cannot even comprehend. For average person, liberation is unthinkable because liberation means death to our psychological attachments. So only few people are ready. So for average person, liberation is getting more and more freedom. And freedom comes in proportion to expansion of consciousness. Okay.
Thank you, Shanti.
Thanks, Shanti.
Thanks, Shanti.